KF Global Seminar, which brings together distinguished global figures and next-generation leaders to discuss vital global issues and to share their expertise. In addition, the KF Forum broadens awareness of today's critical social issues through the arrangement of relevant seminars and lectures, while the National Development Vision Sharing Program provides a means to share Korea's expertise in economic development with the world's developing countries. With its support for Korean studies, the Korea Foundation enables the international community to acquire a deeper understanding of Korea and its people in an effort to develop closer friendships with the world's peoples. The Korea Foundation is building an extensive infrastructure for education and research on Korea through the KF Global eSchool program that enables students to learn about Korea from anywhere and at any time, with online video lectures, and the establishment of Korean studies professorships at universities around the world. The KF Assembly, a platform for academic exchange and networking among Korean study scholars, along with support for Korea-related academic conferences, seminars, workshops, and fellowships, contribute to an advancement of the global community's understanding of Korea. The Cultural and Arts Exchange Program provides a framework to share Korea's culture and spirit with the world, in addition to offering opportunities for global citizens to appreciate cultural diversity. The Korea Foundation seeks to reinforce Korea's bonds with the world's peoples and countries through global cooperation and friendly relations. Examples of these efforts include the KF Day events, which are staged at renowned museums to make known the richness of Korean culture. The Curator Workshop Program that enables curators from abroad to learn about the intricacies of Korea's artistic culture and facilitate networks among them. The staging of various exhibitions and performances to introduce the arts and culture of Korea to global audiences. And the Cultural Center Project that introduces the Korean people to the cultures around the world. The Korea Foundation's Publications and Media program has contributed to Korea's building friendly ties with the peoples around the world by enhancing understanding of Korean culture and society. The Korea Foundation produces a wide range of video content on the culture and arts of Korea, along with distributing Korea-related publications and video materials to some 750 universities, libraries, and research institutions in 96 countries. The Foundation's media efforts include The Koreana, a quarterly journal with features on Korea's arts and culture, the Korea Focus webzine that provides readers with a glimpse of the current affairs in Korea, so that global viewers can enjoy aspects of Korea's contemporary and traditional culture. Through its Public Diplomacy Program, Support for Overseas Korean Studies Program, Cultural and Arts Exchange Program, and the Publication and Media Program, the Korea Foundation has been building and maintaining friendly relations with the peoples around the world for the last 2 decades. The Korea Foundation intends to continue its efforts to strengthen global friendship and goodwill, leaving a lasting impression on the hearts and minds of people around the world. The Korea Foundation's mission is to make friends with the peoples of countries around the world. Particularly, the Korea Foundation at this time strives to expand its cooperative relations with the middle power nations to play a leading role among these countries. Under this program, the Korea Foundation provides a forum to share ideas on key global issues, to bring together specialists from within and outside Korea, and to help enhance the well-being of people and nations worldwide. The Korea Foundation develops future-oriented partnerships with like-minded nations through a variety of public diplomacy initiatives, such as the KF Global Seminar, which brings together distinguished global figures and next-generation leaders to discuss vital global issues and to share their expertise. In addition, the KF Forum broadens awareness of today's critical social issues through the arrangement of relevant seminars and lectures, while the National Development Vision Sharing Program provides a means to share Korea's expertise in economic development with the world's developing countries. With its support for Korean studies, the Korea Foundation enables the international community to acquire a deeper understanding of Korea and its people in an effort to develop closer friendships with the world's peoples. The Korea Foundation is building an extensive infrastructure for education and research on Korea through the KF Global eSchool program that enables students to learn about Korea from anywhere and at any time, with online video lectures, and the establishment of Korean studies professorships at universities around the world. The KF Assembly, a platform for academic exchange and networking among Korean study scholars, along with support for Korea-related academic conferences, seminars, workshops, and fellowships, contribute to an advancement of the global community's understanding of Korea. The Cultural and Arts Exchange Program provides a framework to share Korea's culture and spirit with the world, in addition to offering opportunities for global citizens to appreciate cultural diversity. The Korea Foundation seeks to reinforce Korea's bonds with the world's peoples and countries through global cooperation and friendly relations. Examples of these efforts include the KF Day events, which are staged at renowned museums to make known the richness of Korean culture. The Curator Workshop Program that enables curators from abroad to learn about the intricacies of Korea's artistic culture and facilitate networks among them. The staging of various exhibitions and performances to introduce the arts and culture of Korea to global audiences. And the Cultural Center Project that introduces the Korean people to the cultures around the world. The Korea Foundation's Publications and Media program has contributed to Korea's building friendly ties with the peoples around the world by enhancing understanding of Korean culture and society. The Korea Foundation produces a wide range of video content on the culture and arts of Korea, along with distributing Korea-related publications and video materials to some 750 universities, libraries, and research institutions in 96 countries. The Foundation's media efforts include The Koreana, a quarterly journal with features on Korea's arts and culture, the Korea Focus webzine that provides readers with a glimpse of the current affairs in Korea, so that global viewers can enjoy aspects of Korea's contemporary and traditional culture. Through its Public Diplomacy Program, Support for Overseas Korean Studies Program, Cultural and Arts Exchange Program, and the Publication and Media Program, the Korea Foundation has been building and maintaining friendly relations with the peoples around the world for the last 2 decades. The Korea Foundation intends to continue its efforts to strengthen global friendship and goodwill, leaving a lasting impression on the hearts and minds of people around the world. The Korea Foundation's mission is to make friends with the peoples of countries around the world. Particularly, the Korea Foundation at this time strives to expand its cooperative relations with the middle power nations to play a leading role among these countries. Under this program, the Korea Foundation provides a forum to share ideas on key global issues, to bring together specialists from within and outside Korea, and to help enhance the well-being of people and nations worldwide. The Korea Foundation develops future-oriented partnerships with like-minded nations through a variety of public diplomacy initiatives, such as the KF Global Seminar, which brings together distinguished global figures and next-generation leaders to discuss vital global issues and to share their expertise. In addition, the KF Forum broadens awareness of today's critical social issues through the arrangement of relevant seminars and lectures, while the National Development Vision Sharing Program provides a means to share Korea's expertise in economic development with the world's developing countries. With its support for Korean studies, the Korea Foundation enables the international community to acquire a deeper understanding of Korea and its people in an effort to develop closer friendships with the world's peoples. The Korea Foundation is building an extensive infrastructure for education and research on Korea through the KF Global eSchool program that enables students to learn about Korea from anywhere and at any time, with online video lectures, and the establishment of Korean studies professorships at universities around the world. The KF Assembly, a platform for academic exchange and networking among Korean study scholars, along with support for Korea-related academic conferences, seminars, workshops, and fellowships, contribute to an advancement of the global community's understanding of Korea. The Cultural and Arts Exchange Program provides a framework to share Korea's culture and spirit with the world, in addition to offering opportunities for global citizens to appreciate cultural diversity. The Korea Foundation seeks to reinforce Korea's bonds with the world's peoples and countries through global cooperation and friendly relations. Examples of these efforts include the KF Day events, which are staged at renowned museums to make known the richness of Korean culture. The Curator Workshop Program that enables curators from abroad to learn about the intricacies of Korea's artistic culture and facilitate networks among them. The staging of various exhibitions and performances to introduce the arts and culture of Korea to global audiences. And the Cultural Center Project that introduces the Korean people to the cultures around the world. The Korea Foundation's Publications and Media program has contributed to Korea's building friendly ties with the peoples around the world by enhancing understanding of Korean culture and society. The Korea Foundation produces a wide range of video content on the culture and arts of Korea, along with distributing Korea-related publications and video materials to some 750 universities, libraries, and research institutions in 96 countries. The Foundation's media efforts include The Koreana, a quarterly journal with features on Korea's arts and culture, the Korea Focus webzine that provides readers with a glimpse of the current affairs in Korea, so that global viewers can enjoy aspects of Korea's contemporary and traditional culture. Through its Public Diplomacy Program, Support for Overseas Korean Studies Program, Cultural and Arts Exchange Program, and the Publication and Media Program, the Korea Foundation has been building and maintaining friendly relations with the peoples around the world for the last 2 decades. The Korea Foundation intends to continue its efforts to strengthen global friendship and goodwill, leaving a lasting impression on the hearts and minds of people around the world. The Korea Foundation's mission is to make friends with the peoples of countries around the world. Particularly, the Korea Foundation at this time strives to expand its cooperative relations with the middle power nations to play a leading role among these countries. Under this program, the Korea Foundation provides a forum to share ideas on key global issues, to bring together specialists from within and outside Korea, and to help enhance the well-being of people and nations worldwide. The Korea Foundation develops future-oriented partnerships with like-minded nations through a variety of public diplomacy initiatives, such as the KF Global Seminar, which brings together distinguished global figures and next-generation leaders to discuss vital global issues and to share their expertise. In addition, the KF Forum broadens awareness of today's critical social issues through the arrangement of relevant seminars and lectures, while the National Development Vision Sharing Program provides a means to share Korea's expertise in economic development with the world's developing countries. With its support for Korean studies, the Korea Foundation enables the international community to acquire a deeper understanding of Korea and its people in an effort to develop closer friendships with the world's peoples. The Korea Foundation is building an extensive infrastructure for education and research on Korea through the KF Global eSchool program that enables students to learn about Korea from anywhere and at any time, with online video lectures, and the establishment of Korean studies professorships at universities around the world. The KF Assembly, a platform for academic exchange and networking among Korean study scholars, along with support for Korea-related academic conferences, seminars, workshops, and fellowships, contribute to an advancement of the global community's understanding of Korea. The Cultural and Arts Exchange Program provides a framework to share Korea's culture and spirit with the world, in addition to offering opportunities for global citizens to appreciate cultural diversity. The Korea Foundation seeks to reinforce Korea's bonds with the world's peoples and countries through global cooperation and friendly relations. Examples of these efforts include the KF Day events, which are staged at renowned museums to make known the richness of Korean culture. The Curator Workshop Program that enables curators from abroad to learn about the intricacies of Korea's artistic culture and facilitate networks among them. The staging of various exhibitions and performances to introduce the arts and culture of Korea to global audiences. And the Cultural Center Project that introduces the Korean people to the cultures around the world. The Korea Foundation's Publications and Media program has contributed to Korea's building friendly ties with the peoples around the world by enhancing understanding of Korean culture and society. The Korea Foundation produces a wide range of video content on the culture and arts of Korea, along with distributing Korea-related publications and video materials to some 750 universities, libraries, and research institutions in 96 countries. The Foundation's media efforts include The Koreana, a quarterly journal with features on Korea's arts and culture, the Korea Focus webzine that provides readers with a glimpse of the current affairs in Korea, so that global viewers can enjoy aspects of Korea's contemporary and traditional culture. Through its Public Diplomacy Program, Support for Overseas Korean Studies Program, Cultural and Arts Exchange Program, and the Publication and Media Program, the Korea Foundation has been building and maintaining friendly relations with the peoples around the world for the last 2 decades. The Korea Foundation intends to continue its efforts to strengthen global friendship and goodwill, leaving a lasting impression on the hearts and minds of people around the world. The Korea Foundation's mission is to make friends with the peoples of countries around the world. Particularly, the Korea Foundation at this time strives to expand its cooperative relations with the middle power nations to play a leading role among these countries. Under this program, the Korea Foundation provides a forum to share ideas on key global issues, to bring together specialists from within and outside Korea, and to help enhance the well-being of people and nations worldwide. The Korea Foundation develops future-oriented partnerships with like-minded nations through a variety of public diplomacy initiatives, such as the KF Global Seminar, which brings together distinguished global figures and next-generation leaders to discuss vital global issues and to share their expertise. In addition, the KF Forum broadens awareness of today's critical social issues through the arrangement of relevant seminars and lectures, while the National Development Vision Sharing Program provides a means to share Korea's expertise in economic development with the world's developing countries. With its support for Korean studies, the Korea Foundation enables the international community to acquire a deeper understanding of Korea and its people in an effort to develop closer friendships with the world's peoples. The Korea Foundation is building an extensive infrastructure for education and research on Korea through the KF Global eSchool program that enables students to learn about Korea from anywhere and at any time, with online video lectures, and the establishment of Korean studies professorships at universities around the world. The KF Assembly, a platform for academic exchange and networking among Korean study scholars, along with support for Korea-related academic conferences, seminars, workshops, and fellowships, contribute to an advancement of the global community's understanding of Korea. The Cultural and Arts Exchange Program provides a framework to share Korea's culture and spirit with the world, in addition to offering opportunities for global citizens to appreciate cultural diversity. The Korea Foundation seeks to reinforce Korea's bonds with the world's peoples and countries through global cooperation and friendly relations. Examples of these efforts include the KF Day events, which are staged at renowned museums to make known the richness of Korean culture. The Curator Workshop Program that enables curators from abroad to learn about the intricacies of Korea's artistic culture and facilitate networks among them. The staging of various exhibitions and performances to introduce the arts and culture of Korea to global audiences. And the Cultural Center Project that introduces the Korean people to the cultures around the world. The Korea Foundation's Publications and Media program has contributed to Korea's building friendly ties with the peoples around the world by enhancing understanding of Korean culture and society. The Korea Foundation produces a wide range of video content on the culture and arts of Korea, along with distributing Korea-related publications and video materials to some 750 universities, libraries, and research institutions in 96 countries. The Foundation's media efforts include The Koreana, a quarterly journal with features on Korea's arts and culture, the Korea Focus webzine that provides readers with a glimpse of the current affairs in Korea, so that global viewers can enjoy aspects of Korea's contemporary and traditional culture. Through its Public Diplomacy Program, Support for Overseas Korean Studies Program, Cultural and Arts Exchange Program, and the Publication and Media Program, the Korea Foundation has been building and maintaining friendly relations with the peoples around the world for the last 2 decades. The Korea Foundation intends to continue its efforts to strengthen global friendship and goodwill, leaving a lasting impression on the hearts and minds of people around the world.
네, 잠시 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 잠시 후 9시 30분부터 제15회 한국미술큐레이터워크숍 기념 국제회의 해외박물관과 한국실 새로운 20년을 시작하겠습니다. 회의장에 계신 참가자께서는 준비된 자리에 착석해 주시고요. 아직 로비에 계시거나 등록 확인 중이신 참가자께서는 속히 회의장으로 입장해 주시기 바랍니다. May I have your attention, please? In about momentarily, the 15th and the International Conference, Korean Galleries, Another Step Forward, which is the international conference organized to commemorate the 15th anniversary of the Korean Arts Curators Workshop, will begin momentarily. So we would like to ask you to please take your seats and to hasten with your registration and finish up with your coffee. Thank you. 잠시 또 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 이제 곧 개회식이 시작될 예정이니 준비된 자리에 착석해 주시기 바랍니다. May I have your attention, please? The opening ceremony will begin momentarily, so I would like to ask you to please take your seats as soon as possible. Thank you. 다시 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 이제 곧 연사님께서 착석하신 관계로 곧 개회식을 시작할 예정입니다. 로비에 계신 참가자들께서는 속히 회의장으로 입장해 주시기 바랍니다. The opening ceremony for the International Conference, Korean Galleries Another Step Forward will begin momentarily. So we would like to ask all the participants in the lobby to enter the hall and take your seats. Thank you. 예, 또 통역에 대해서 잠시 말씀드리겠습니다. 본 개회식 및 포럼은 한국어, 영어 동시 통역이 제공됩니다. 영어는 1번 채널, 한국어는 2번 채널이니 참고하시기 바랍니다. This opening ceremony and the international conference is provided with simultaneous translation. The English is on channel 1 and Korean is in channel 2. So please set your receivers accordingly. Thank you. 아울러 개회식의 원활한 진행을 위해 네, 죄송합니다. 잘못 말씀드렸습니다. 한국어가 1번 채널이고요. 영어는 2번 채널이라고 합니다. 죄송합니다. Korean is on channel 1 and English is channel 2. I apologize for the mistake. 아울러 개회식의 원활한 진행을 위해서 휴대하고 계신 핸드폰은 전원을 꺼주시면 감사하겠습니다. For the smooth proceedings of this conference, we would like you to turn off your cell phones during the proceedings. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome and greetings from the Korea Foundation. I would like to thank all of you who have come so early today morning to attend today's meaningful conference. Korean Galleries Another Step Forward is the international conference organized to commemorate the 15th anniversary of the Korean Arts Curators Workshop and to look back on the last 20 years of our fruitful relationship with over 60 museums in 20 countries. Beginning with this opening ceremony, there will be 3 main sessions, 1 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, followed by a general discussion at the end of the conference. Now, without further ado, let me introduce the President of the Korea Foundation, President Yoo Hyun-suk, to open this conference. Thank you.
Good morning. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm indeed pleased to welcome all of you to this international conference hosted by Korea Foundation titled Korean Galleries Another Step Forward, which celebrates the 15th anniversary of our workshop for Korean art curator at Overseas Museum program. As an organization at the forefront of Korea's international exchange and public diplomacy, since its launch in 1991, the Korea Foundation have implemented a exchange related to academia, arts and culture, and human resources to enhance friendly relationship with the countries and the peoples of the global community and to bolster Korea's global standing. Related to this, the Foundation offers a variety of support programs to museums abroad to reinforce their efforts to build new Korean gallery spaces where the Korean artifacts that are scattered throughout the world can be properly displayed. And over the past 20 years, the Foundation has successfully undertaken cooperative projects with some 60 museums in 20 countries where Korea's arts and culture are being more actively featured for local residents and visitors. This conference is being conducted to highlight the 15th annual workshop for Korean art curators program. Since 1999, this workshop program has served as a vital means for the Korea-related curators at museums worldwide to acquire in-depth knowledge about various aspects of Korean art and to exchange ideas with their counterparts in Korea and abroad. The workshop has well established itself as an annual gathering for Asian art curators with a number of participants that have attended multiple sessions together with a group of newcomers every year who are eager to be a part of this expanding network of Korean art professionals. Of note, this year's special conference brings together the distinguished directors and staff professionals of the world's most prestigious museums to evaluate the outcomes of the Korea Foundation's program efforts over the past 20 years, to promote Korea's culture and art to worldwide audiences. Above all, I must extend my sincere gratitude to all of you who, despite your own busy schedule, have so willingly agreed to participate in the presentation and discussions of this conference in order to share your personal expertise and insight with us so that we might identify new directions and more effective means to advance our mutual interests. I would also like to thank the local participants, including those not directly related to the museum sector, for your interest in promoting Korea's cultural diplomacy. I'm fully confident that in light of the personal commitment which everyone here has already shown for the promotion of Korea's art and culture, we will come away from this gathering with creative ideas to further build on our notable successes of the past 20 years. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you, President Yoon Hyun-suk, and we are honored to have the Director General of the National Museum of Korea, Dr. Kim Young-na, to deliver her congratulatory remarks to this conference.
Good morning, everyone. I am Kim Young-na, Director of the National Museum of Korea. To commemorate the 15th workshop for Korean art curators at overseas museums, the Korea Foundation is hosting this international conference with the theme Korean Galleries, Another Step Forward. On behalf of the National Museum of Korea, I offer my sincere gratitude and congratulations to everyone involved with this event, which recognizes the significant progress of Korean galleries in international museums. The Korea Foundation was established in 1991 in order to introduce Korean art and culture to the world. Since that time, the Korea Foundation has been integrally involved with numerous activities on this front, such as organizing special exhibitions, cultural events, and educational programs. Above all, the Korea Foundation has actively provided crucial support for the establishment and development of Korean galleries at overseas museums, with remarkable results. Thanks to their tireless efforts, Korean galleries are now featured in 71 museums and art institutes in 25 countries around the world. Thus, I wish to once again acknowledge the determination of Korea Foundation, who have honestly and persistently pursued their mission, often under difficult circumstances. Today, we are gathered to review the past achievement related to supporting Korean galleries in overseas museums, as well as to map the future direction of this initiative. The participants in this conference include those from Korean institutions who support the establishment of Korean galleries overseas, as well as those from international institutions who have installed and operated Korean galleries. As such, I hope that we can all work together to share our ideas and lessons from our past experience creating Korean galleries in order to plan more effectively for future efforts and activities. Furthermore, I hope that this conference will serve as a foundation for Korean galleries in overseas museums to ascend to the next level as befitting the theme Korean galleries, another step forward. Lastly, I must thank Yoo Hyun-seok, President of the Korea Foundation, and everyone at the Korea Foundation for organizing this wonderful conference. I also want to thank all of the museum directors, both current and previous, as well as the staff members of Korean galleries, and everyone else who is here to present and discuss. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. And now, I am very honored to have Mr. Son Ju-hwan, the former Minister of Information and Culture of Korea, and also the former President of the Korea Foundation, who oversaw the beginning of the Museum Support Program at our foundation. Please welcome Mr. Son Ju-hwan on the stage. He is here to deliver the address for the vision proposal for the shared prosperity and coexistence of the global community.
Good morning. I was the former president of the Korea Foundation. I was with the Korea Foundation as its president from 1992 to the end of 1994. It's my honor and pleasure to be here as keynote speaker this morning. Preparing for the speech was not easy for me, but it gave me an opportunity to recall my hectic days at the foundation. I am proud to say that I really tried best to expand the scope of activities of the Korea Foundation, and I still have much affection for the organization. So I would like to thank the foundation for giving me this opportunity to deliver my messages. My speech will be based on my experience with the Korea Foundation and my thoughts derived from those experiences. To save time, I will talk some important points from my speech text. However, I strongly hope that you spare times to read the full text of my speech, which will be available in the material of this conference. Dr. Yoo Hyun-seok, the president of the Korea Foundation, Dr. Kim Young-na, the Director General of National Museum of Korea, Dr. Robert Anderson from the British Museum, Professor Lee Seung-mi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am extremely honored to meet all of you here today as leading curators of Korean art galleries in museums across the world. You are deeply valued friends of Korea. Today I am filled with emotions as I am reminded of my special moment 20 years ago when I made arduous effort along with some of your senior colleagues to introduce the arts and the culture of Korea to the world. I would like to extend a hearty welcome to all of you for attending this international conference, Korean Galleries, Another Step Forward. As the president of the Korea Foundation, during the very beginning days of its launch, I have concentrated the effort of the foundation on establishing or expanding the Korean galleries in the Metropolitan Museum in New York, the British Museum in London, Musée in Paris. I found this effort very rewarding and take much pride in the result. However, the Korea Foundation could not but take a decision to focus its support mainly on a few select institutions, including these 3 museums in those days. So it was unfortunate that our cooperative efforts with other leading museums were not entirely satisfactory. This was because the foundation was still in its infancy. It was inevitable for me to concentrate our investment on a few select institutions. Also, this was the best I could manage under the circumstances 20 years ago. I would like to take this opportunity to ask for your understanding of my anguished decision at that time. I greatly admire the endeavors that the Korea Foundation has exerted over the past 20 years, persistently expanding cooperation with museums around the world and allowing friends of foreign countries with different cultures opportunities to get a better understanding of arts and culture of Korea. So I would like to pay the tribute to the Korea Foundation and all of you here today for your amazing work in supporting the establishment or expansion of Korean galleries in 28 museums in 10 countries across the world, as well as supporting Korea-related special exhibition, education, cultural programs in 65 overseas museums. Ladies and gentlemen, taking care of museums around the world, we all know that about 20 years ago, a new vocabulary emerged, and that was the clash of civilizations, making an appearance as a theory interpreting the New World Order. This theory was proposed by the American political scientist Samuel Huntington in an article titled The Clash of Civilizations in the leading international relations journal, Foreign Affairs in 1993. The article asserts that different civilizations will be the primary source of conflict in the new world politics of the 21st century. The theory hypothesizes that the world from now on will be divided into civilizations, where the Cold War era, in which 2 power blocks of the world, represented by the United States and the Soviet Union, competed, has come to an end with the collapse of the Soviet Union, and therefore the age of ideology is over. Moreover, it claims that the clash of these civilizations will dominate global politics, and fault lines between civilizations will be the battle lines of the future. Huntington's thesis provoked strong argument both for and against in the media and academia around the world. Moreover, it received the spotlight again with the September 11 attacks in the United States in 2001. Also, a number of different opinions were presented. His theory is valued highly in that it analyzed the core of contemporary global politics and provided a new perspective to humanity regarding civilizations. Apart from the argument for and against Professor Huntington's clash of civilizations theory, there is one fact that we must pay attention to. excuse me. Apart from the argument for and against Professor Huntington's clash of civilizations theory, there is one fact that we must pay attention to, and that is deepening mutual understanding among different civilizations ensures the safety of the global community, and furthermore, it is essential for the co-prosperity and coexistence of different civilizations. All of you, ladies and gentlemen, gathered here today, play a vital role in promoting, understanding, and educating your nation's public about different cultures. Furthermore, you all have missions as cultural emissaries to contribute to the shared prosperity, coexistence of the global community through the disseminations of such cultures. In other words, you are emissaries of culture, helping to promote understanding of Korean culture among the members and the citizens of your respective national community. New and deeper understanding and awareness of Korean culture by other cultures makes great contribution to improving the national image of Korea. And more importantly, mutual understanding between cultures becomes an important element that enables peaceful, shared prosperity and coexistence of the global community. Now, I would like to speak to you, the emissaries of Korean culture, about a few visions. Firstly, I would like to emphasize that the emissaries of Korean culture must have a deep understanding of Korean history. The cultural history of a nation is not separate from a nation's history, but rather an integral part of it. Thus, a deep understanding of the nation's history must precede the study of the nation's cultural history. Therefore, I believe that Korean art curators must have sufficient insight of the entire history of Korea along with the history of Korean culture. In other words, by understanding the overall history of Korea, the cultural history of Korea will be more accessible. Therefore, the Korea Foundation must further expand and systemize its Korean history program for Korean art curators. I would like to emphasize the importance of the Korea Foundation continuously cooperating with overseas museums so that the curators can gain specialized understanding and a sufficient level of awareness of Korean history. Secondly, I would like to assure you, ladies and gentlemen, present here today, that your role as emissaries of Korean art and culture is extremely important in the research and conservation of Korean cultural assets located in various countries of the world. The Korea Foundation has got great achievement by persistently pursuing the survey of Korean cultural assets held overseas as one of the Foundation's major programs. The survey of Korean cultural assets held overseas, which the Korea Foundation started first in Korea, has been evaluated as having contributed greatly to raising awareness of Korean cultural assets both locally and globally. However, carrying out the program was not at all easy as it faced many difficulties. Now, I believe it might be helpful to briefly mention a few of my personal experience. In the history of relations between China and Korea, Korean Peninsula, there was an era in which Korea would regularly render tribute to China. Moreover, historical sites of Korea's former Goguryeo and Balhae kingdoms are located in the present-day northeastern region of China. Based on this background, in 1993, I planned a project to research the Korean cultural artifacts that are housed in the Palace Museum in Beijing and the museums of China's northeast region and relics of sites of Korea, former Goguryeo and Balhae Kingdom. I obtained approval for the survey of Korean cultural assets through discussion with relevant authorities of the Chinese government and the director of the Palace Museum after receiving advice from domestic experts, including the director of the Seoul National University Museum and the director of the National Museum of Korea. However, the local survey in China encountered numerous obstacles. At the actual site, the survey activities were not carried out smoothly, and due to the request from the Chinese side, the surveyed relics were not made public. I believe that this was due to the concerns of China that the surveying and the disclosure of Korean relics preserved in China might disturb the sensitive aspect of Sino-Korean relations. Regarding a different case, the recent return to Korea of the Joseon dynasty Eugye by the French government, we are able to draw a number of lessons. We all know well that the Joseon dynasty Eugye is a vast collection of documents recording in detail the important rituals and the ceremonies of the nation and the royal family that is evaluated as the highest reach of archival culture and has been listed in the register of the UNESCO Memory of the World. This Eugye, which had been kept in Waegyujangak of Ganghwa Island, considered to be the western gateway to Hanyang, of the capital of Joseon dynasty, was looted during the invasion of Ganghwa Island by a French fleet in October 1866. This Eugye of Waegyujangak was discovered in 1975 in the stories of the National Library of France by the Korean bibliographer Dr. Park Byung-sun, who had been studying history in France. Afterward, the Waegyujangak Eugye of the Joseon dynasty finally returned home in 2011, after 145 years since the looting, through its return movement across 20 years. It is currently stored and exhibited in the National Museum of Korea. Here we find issues that we must look into. The first issue that must be pointed out is that at the time when the Waegyujangak Eugye, a World Heritage, was first discovered by Dr. Park Byung-sun, the then part-time employee at the National Library of France. It was classified as materials to be destroyed, and therefore was on the brink of disposal. Next, what is more absurd is that Dr. Park, who had been working on the bibliographical introduction after the cultural heritage was discovered, was forced to resign one day. It seems like this was an attempt to block the return movement of the Joseon Eugye in advance. What both cases of China and France show in common is that a nation that holds another cultural heritage sometimes adopt an unfriendly attitude toward such cultural heritage surveys. Moreover, the determining of another culture's relics as an object for disposal shows that the nation is often passive toward or even rejects the appraisal or research of the expert of that culture, valued emissaries of Korean culture. And this is why I strongly believe that the survey program of Korean cultural asset held overseas must continue, and it will actually do so. So I would like to emphasize that the target regarding the survey and conservation on Korean cultural asset must be expanded beyond museums and galleries to include third-party organization and personal collections. Here, what we must pay attention to is the issue of overcoming unfriendly and uncooperative attitude toward the survey and research of the relics of the nation possessing those of different culture. In solving these issues, I most certainly believe that all of you as valued emissaries of Korean culture will be able to play a more active role. Firstly, organizing a more systematic initiative to identify hidden Korean artifacts lying dormant in the museum stores abroad would be critical effort. Fortunately, reviving Korean relics from the stores of overseas museums with Korean art galleries has been relatively successful thus far. For example, in 1994, at the time I was about to sign the basic agreement for the expansion of the Korean gallery with Ms. Kim as the foundation president, relevant record stated that the museum only housed some 100 Korean cultural assets. However, when the expanded Korean gallery reopened in 2001, Ms. Kim officially stated that their Korean art collection comprised more than 1,200 pieces. The increase of the collection was due in part to new acquisition. However, it was mostly due to the ceaseless effort devoted to discovering and organizing dormant objects in the stories and assorting and recategorizing Korean objects, including those which had mistakenly been classified as part of the Chinese or Japanese collections. However, while expanding into overseas museums that do not have Korean art gallery, the survey of Korean cultural assets should be consistently pursued in their stories. In this respect, I have great expectations for the future cooperation between the Korea Foundation and you valued emissaries of Korean art and culture. Next is the issue of uncovering Korean artwork possessed by overseas third-party organizations and individuals. There will be greater difficulty in unveiling these artworks because the unfriendly attitude toward surveying relics of other cultures is expected to intensify. However, what is evident is that the hostility shown against the survey of relics from different cultures no longer coincide with the contemporary belief that advocates the coexistence of civilizations rather than the clash of civilizations. Lastly, I would like to present my views on the matter of returning overseas cultural assets. Returning relics looted during war or smuggled out illegally most definitely should be achieved through the implementation of international law and agreement between the two nations involved. However, what I consider to be the more urgent task is the survey that reveals the existence of such Korean cultural relics which have lain hidden behind walls or gathering dust in storage areas and making them known to the world while allowing local revelation exhibition of those relics that have been revealed. My reasoning behind this is simple. Humanity is now in pursuit of a unified global community. The exhibition of Korean relics in local museum and cultural spaces of the very countries in which they have been rediscovered is expanding the opportunity for Korean arts and culture to encounter more directly other civilizations. This will deepen understanding among civilizations and therefore greatly contribute to the coexistence of civilizations and the security of the global community. In other words, as such, openly exhibiting the Korean cultural assets that have been retrieved overseas will have the same effect as an overseas touring exhibition of cultural assets currently in possession of the National Museum of Korea, for example. When spirit of the time changes, then the way we perceive the world must change as well. I believe that if priority is placed on survey and the local exhibition of relics rather than their return, then the discovery of a survey of Korean culture assets overseas will be vitalized, and as a result, the number of Korean cultural assets that are permanently displayed overseas will increase. Our most emissaries of Korean art and culture, going beyond the expert level in the field of art and culture, you all have taken up the mission to broaden civilization's understanding of different civilizations through its cultural asset. Thus, you are contributing each in your special way to the shared prosperity and the coexistence of civilizations as well as peace and the security of the global community. You are really all global peacemakers, and simultaneously you are also part of the global peacekeeping forces. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Son Joo-han, for that inspiring keynote speech. And this opening ceremony is drawing to a close, and we would like to conclude this ceremony with a commemorative photo session for the speakers. So I would like to ask the speakers in the front row to please step forward to the stage. And in the meanwhile, there are refreshments outside in the lobby for you at your disposal. So, and the session 1 will begin at 10:30, so we would like you to come back to the hall at 10:30. Thank you.
The Korea Foundation's mission is to make friends with the peoples of countries around the world. Particularly, the Korea Foundation at this time strives to expand its cooperative relations with the middle power nations to play a leading role among these countries. Under this program, the Korea Foundation provides a forum to share ideas on key global issues, to bring together specialists from within and outside Korea and to help enhance the well-being of people and nations worldwide. The Korea Foundation develops future-oriented partnerships with like-minded nations through a variety of public diplomacy initiatives, such as the KF Global Seminar, which brings together distinguished global figures and next-generation leaders to discuss vital global issues and to share their expertise. In addition, the KF Forum broadens awareness of today's critical social issues through the arrangement of relevant seminars and lectures, while the National Development Vision Sharing Program provides a means to share Korea's expertise in economic development with the world's developing countries. With its support for Korean studies, the Korea Foundation enables the international community to acquire a deeper understanding of Korea and its people in an effort to develop closer friendships with the world's peoples. The Korea Foundation is building an extensive infrastructure for education and research on Korea through the KF Global eSchool program that enables students to learn about Korea from anywhere and at any time, with online video lectures, and the establishment of Korean studies professorships at universities around the world. The KF Assembly, a platform for academic exchange and networking among Korean study scholars, along with support for Korea-related academic conferences, seminars, workshops, and fellowships, contribute to an advancement of the global community's understanding of Korea. The Cultural and Arts Exchange Program provides a framework to share Korea's culture and spirit with the world, in addition to offering opportunities for global citizens to appreciate cultural diversity. The Korea Foundation seeks to reinforce Korea's bonds with the world's peoples and countries through global cooperation and friendly relations. Examples of these efforts include the KF Day events, which are staged at renowned museums to make known the richness of Korean culture. The Curator Workshop Program that enables curators from abroad to learn about the intricacies of Korea's artistic culture and facilitate networks among them. The staging of various exhibitions and performances to introduce the arts and culture of Korea to global audiences. And the Cultural Center Project that introduces the Korean people to the cultures around the world. The Korea Foundation's Publications and Media program has contributed to Korea's building friendly ties with the peoples around the world by enhancing understanding of Korean culture and society. The Korea Foundation produces a wide range of video content on the culture and arts of Korea, along with distributing Korea-related publications and video materials to some 750 universities, libraries, and research institutions in 96 countries. The Foundation's media efforts include The Koreana, a quarterly journal with features on Korea's arts and culture, the Korea Focus webzine that provides readers with a glimpse of the current affairs in Korea, so that global viewers can enjoy aspects of Korea's contemporary and traditional culture. Through its public diplomacy program, support for Overseas Korean Studies program, Cultural and Arts Exchange program, and the Publication and Media program, the Korea Foundation has been building and maintaining friendly relations with the peoples around the world for the last 2 decades. The Korea Foundation intends to continue its efforts to strengthen global friendship and goodwill, leaving a lasting impression on the hearts and minds of people around the world. The Korea Foundation's mission is to make friends with the peoples of countries around the world. Particularly, the Korea Foundation at this time strives to expand its cooperative relations with the middle power nations to play a leading role among these countries. Under this program, the Korea Foundation provides a forum to share ideas on key global issues, to bring together specialists from within and outside Korea and to help enhance the well-being of people and nations worldwide. The Korea Foundation develops future-oriented partnerships with like-minded nations through a variety of public diplomacy initiatives, such as the KF Global Seminar, which brings together distinguished global figures and next-generation leaders to discuss vital global issues and to share their expertise. In addition, the KF Forum broadens awareness of today's critical social issues through the arrangement of relevant seminars and lectures, while the National Development Vision Sharing Program provides a means to share Korea's expertise in economic development with the world's developing countries. With its support for Korean studies, the Korea Foundation enables the international community to acquire a deeper understanding of Korea and its people in an effort to develop closer friendships with the world's peoples. The Korea Foundation is building an extensive infrastructure for education and research on Korea through the KF Global e-School program that enables students to learn about Korea from anywhere and at any time, with online video lectures, and the establishment of Korean studies professorships at universities around the world. The KF Assembly, a platform for academic exchange and networking among Korean study scholars, along with support for Korea-related academic conferences, seminars, workshops, and fellowships, contribute to an advancement of the global community's understanding of Korea. The Cultural and Arts Exchange Program provides a framework to share Korea's culture and spirit with the world, in addition to offering opportunities for global citizens to appreciate cultural diversity. The Korea Foundation seeks to reinforce Korea's bonds with the world's peoples and countries through global cooperation and friendly relations. Examples of these efforts include the KF Day events, which are staged at renowned museums to make known the richness of Korean culture. The Curator Workshop Program that enables curators from abroad to learn about the intricacies of Korea's artistic culture and facilitate networks among them. The staging of various exhibitions and performances to introduce the arts and culture of Korea to global audiences. And the Cultural Center Project that introduces the Korean people to the cultures around the world. The Korea Foundation's Publications and Media program has contributed to Korea's building friendly ties with the peoples around the world by enhancing understanding of Korean culture and society. The Korea Foundation produces a wide range of video content on the culture and arts of Korea, along with distributing Korea-related publications and video materials to some 750 universities, libraries, and research institutions in 96 countries. The Foundation's media efforts include The Koreana, a quarterly journal with features on Korea's arts and culture, the Korea Focus webzine that provides readers with a glimpse of the current affairs in Korea, so that global viewers can enjoy aspects of Korea's contemporary and traditional culture. Through its public diplomacy program, support for Overseas Korean Studies program, Cultural and Arts Exchange program, and the Publication and Media program, the Korea Foundation has been building and maintaining friendly relations with the peoples around the world for the last 2 decades. The Korea Foundation intends to continue its efforts to strengthen global friendship and goodwill, leaving a lasting impression on the hearts and minds of people around the world. The Korea Foundation's mission is to make friends with the peoples of countries around the world. Particularly, the Korea Foundation at this time strives to expand its cooperative relations with the middle power nations to play a leading role among these countries. Under this program, the Korea Foundation provides a forum to share ideas on key global issues, to bring together specialists from within and outside Korea and to help enhance the well-being of people and nations worldwide. The Korea Foundation develops future-oriented partnerships with like-minded nations through a variety of public diplomacy initiatives, such as the KF Global Seminar, which brings together distinguished global figures and next-generation leaders to discuss vital global issues and to share their expertise. In addition, the KF Forum broadens awareness of today's critical social issues through the arrangement of relevant seminars and lectures, while the National Development Vision Sharing Program provides a means to share Korea's expertise in economic development with the world's developing countries. With its support for Korean studies, the Korea Foundation enables the international community to acquire a deeper understanding of Korea and its people in an effort to develop closer friendships with the world's peoples. The Korea Foundation is building an extensive infrastructure for education and research on Korea through the KF Global eSchool program that enables students to learn about Korea from anywhere and at any time, with online video lectures, and the establishment of Korean studies professorships at universities around the world. The KF Assembly, a platform for academic exchange and networking among Korean study scholars, along with support for Korea-related academic conferences, seminars, workshops, and fellowships, contribute to an advancement of the global community's understanding of Korea. The Cultural and Arts Exchange Program provides a framework to share Korea's culture and spirit with the world, in addition to offering opportunities for global citizens to appreciate cultural diversity. The Korea Foundation seeks to reinforce Korea's bonds with the world's peoples and countries through global cooperation and friendly relations. Examples of these efforts include the KF Day events, which are staged at renowned museums to make known the richness of Korean culture. The Curator Workshop Program that enables curators from abroad to learn about the intricacies of Korea's artistic culture and facilitate networks among them. The staging of various exhibitions and performances to introduce the arts and culture of Korea to global audiences. And the Cultural Center Project that introduces the Korean people to the cultures around the world. The Korea Foundation's Publications and Media program has contributed to Korea's building friendly ties with the peoples around the world by enhancing understanding of Korean culture and society. The Korea Foundation produces a wide range of video content on the culture and arts of Korea, along with distributing Korea-related publications and video materials to some 750 universities, libraries, and research institutions in 96 countries. The Foundation's media efforts include The Koreana, a quarterly journal with features on Korea's arts and culture, the Korea Focus webzine that provides readers with a glimpse of the current affairs in Korea, so that global viewers can enjoy aspects of Korea's contemporary and traditional culture. Through its public diplomacy program, support for Overseas Korean Studies program, Cultural and Arts Exchange program, and the Publication and Media program, the Korea Foundation has been building and maintaining friendly relations with the peoples around the world for the last 2 decades. The Korea Foundation intends to continue its efforts to strengthen global friendship and goodwill, leaving a lasting impression on the hearts and minds of people around the world.
잠시 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 세션 1이 곧 시작할 예정입니다. 연사분들은 무대에 착석해 주시고 나머지 참석자 여러분들께서도 홀 안으로 들어와 자리에 착석해 주시기 바랍니다. May I have your attention, please? Session 1 will begin shortly. We would like to ask the speakers for the session 1 to take your seats on the stage and for the participants to take your seats in the hall. Thank you.
요새는 또 이런 회의들을 다 이런 식으로 진행을 하더라고요. 정말. 예, 저희가 다음에는 예상했습니다. 네. 네. 물론 그렇긴 한데요. 네네.
이사장님은 안 드시겠다.
토론자가 토론하실 때 나가야 되는 거 아니에요? 포디움으로?
네, 연사님들이 자리에 착석하시는 대로 바로 세션 1을 시작하겠습니다.
네,
As soon as all the speakers are on the stage, we'll begin the session one. Thank you.
네. 그러고 나서 이제 나중에 전체 토론. 나는 짧게 썼어.
Oh, yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
What's gathering dust in your face? Got some nice contemporary Korean stuff. We do, and in part that's because our curator does pay attention to that. We also have an endowed position in contemporary craft, which hardly describes what she does, but she collects globally. I must talk to her because one of the objects on display, at least when I came to see it some time ago, was on the thing.
무대에 올라간다
It's a
그래서
very fine circular cylinder from the Korea period, which is called a bulb bowl. Talk to her about it. Will talk to her
피부
about
안지는 훈련을 해야 돼.
perhaps it's got its label changed, but it's not what according to James. It's not what it
Good morning. Welcome back to the conference. For those of you who weren't here for the opening ceremony, this is the International Conference Korean Galleries Another Step Forward, which is the international conference organized to commemorate the 15th anniversary of a Korean Arts Curators Workshop. And session one, we will begin the session one in just about very soon. And the session one is about the outlook for the museum management and Korean galleries. And we are very lucky to have Professor Cho In-soo, who is the Associate Professor and Chair of the Art Theory Department at the Korea National University of Arts. And without further ado, I would like to turn the microphone over to Professor Cho. Professor Cho?
Okay. Good morning. My name is In-soo Jo, moderator of this first session, and I'm going to speak in Korean, so please use your translation device in front of you. 예, 안녕하십니까. 그 제15회 그 국제교류재단의 이 심포지움의 첫 번째 사회를 맡게 돼서 매우 영광입니다. 그 우선 이 15회 뜻깊은 행사를 축하를 드리고요. 제가 그 기억하기는 1999년에 이 첫 번째 행사가 이루어졌습니다. 그 당시 저는 용인에 있는 호암미술관의 큐레이터로 일을 하고 있었는데 거기에 이제 이 그룹들이 다들 방문을 하셨어요. 그래서 거기서 이제 몇 가지 강의를 진행을 하고 그 다음에 이제 그 용인의 호암미술관을 참관을 하셨습니다. 그래서 그 당시에 저는 거기에 큐레이터로 일을 하고 있었기 때문에 그 전부터 알고 있었던 여러 친구분들을 거기서 반갑게 다시 만날 수 있었고요. 그 다음에 또 그 자리에서 새로운 친구를 많이 사귈 수가 있었습니다. 그래서 그것이 지금 이제 벌써 15년이 지났고 그 중에 많은 분들이 지금 이 자리에 계속 참여를 해 주셨기 때문에 참으로 감개무량합니다. 참으로 가슴 벅찬 일이고요. 제가 소망하건대 앞으로 이러한 큐레이터 워크숍 프로그램이 계속 진행이 되고 또 발전이 되기를 기원해 마지 않습니다. 그리고 또 여기 이 자리에 보니까 그때는 보지 못했던 또 새로운 또 젊은 그 큐레이터 분들이 많이 와 계시는데요. 이것이 그때와 비교해서 이 한국 그리고 한국 미술이 얼마큼 발전을 했는지를 잘 알려주는 것 같습니다. 그래서 이렇게 뜻깊은 자리에 여러분들 참석을 해주신 데 감사의 말씀을 드리고요. 오늘 그 첫 번째 세션에는 세 분의 발표자가 기다리고 계십니다. 그래서 각각 한 분당 20분씩 이제 발표를 해 주실 거고요. 그 후에 두 분의 토론자께서 간단히 질의를 해 주시면 그에 대해서 같이 토론하도록 하겠습니다. 그래서 약 12시까지 진행이 될 예정입니다. 그럼 우선 첫 번째 발표자를 소개해 드리겠습니다. 그 첫 번째 발표자는 그 한국국제교류재단의 차두현 교류협력 이사십니다. 그 차두현 이사님께서는 연세대학교에서 정치학 박사학위를 취득을 하셨고요. 북한 문제에 대해서 전문가이십니다. 그래서 오랫동안 한국국방연구원에서 재직을 하셨는데요. 국방 현안 팀장을 맡으셨고 북한 군사 연구실장을 맡으셨습니다. 그리고 2010년부터 한국국제교류재단에 와서 일을 하고 계신데요. 현재는 교류협력 이사직함을 맡고 계십니다. 오늘 발표해 주실 토론의 제목은 한국국제교류재단 해외박물관 지원사업 성과와 과제입니다. 박수로 맞아주시기 바랍니다.
Thank you, Professor Joe. Good morning, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ji-Hyun Cha, Executive Vice President for the Program Management of Korea Foundation. As superintendent of all the programs of the Korea Foundation, I am most grateful for your personal efforts to promote arts and the culture of Korea through our cooperative endeavors, and I would like to express my sincere appreciation for all the participants. The Korea Foundation, as an affiliate of Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, carries out a variety of programs to foster a better understanding of Korea and its culture among the global community. These efforts include the provision of our program support to museums worldwide for the establishment and or renovation of Korean gallery spaces, and the implementation of Korea-related exhibitions and related programs. In addition, the Foundation conducts internship and personal exchange programs to nurture the next generation of museum professionals and cultural specialists. In this way, the Korea Foundation is helping to create a more suitable environment for the further promotion of Korean culture by offering its support to enhance the related hardware and software systems, as well as needed human resources in a productive and cost-effective manner. First, let me introduce our hardware project. The Foundation support for the establishment of renovation or renovation of Korean art galleries in museums abroad provides dedicated spaces for the permanent display of Korean arts to worldwide audience. These efforts help to introduce the beauty of Korea's arts and culture to the local residents and the visitors of leading museums all over the world, while steadily enhancing people's awareness and the image of the Korea. Under this program, I'm pleased to note that 28 museums in 10 countries of North America, South America, and Europe now maintain newly established, expanded, or renovated Korean gallery spaces. Among the 42 or so Korean art galleries that have been open since 1991, the year of the Foundation's establishment, 25 of these galleries, or more than 60% of the total, have been established in conjunction with Foundation support. Moreover, from a total of 71 Korean galleries and the Korea-related sections that are currently maintained around the world, 28 museums, including the British Museum in London, the Metropolitan Museum of Art and Art in New York, and the Musée Guimet of the Louvre Museum in Paris, have received assistance from the Foundation for the establishment or renovation of their respective Korean gallery spaces. Among the Korean gallery projects that have been completed with the Foundation program support, 18 are founded in the United States, which reflect the cooperative relations and the synergy that are required to undertake this kind of endeavor under a cost-sharing arrangement. Especially, the recipient museums agreed to utilize the Korean gallery spaces for the permanent display of Korean arts and to maintain a suitable collection of Korean artwork and artifacts, in addition to retaining a professional staff to properly oversee and manage the Korean resources. Above all, the Korean gallery spaces enable the presentation of Korea-related exhibition and outreach programs that are invaluable for building up audiences who are familiar with the appreciative of Korean culture. Now, I also say about our software initiatives. The Foundation has also provided support for the presentation of Korea-related exhibitions and educational programs held at 38 museums in 14 countries in an effort to better utilize the Korean galleries and broaden understanding of the arts and culture of Korea. Representative exhibition of this kind includes special showing of Korean Bukchung ceramics at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco in 2011. There also has been a touring exhibition of Europe on Korean contemporary ceramics and a special exhibition of Korean metal works at the Powerhouse Museum in Sydney, Australia. These exhibitions has been hugely successful, very big success, capturing the eyes of the hundreds of thousands of viewers. The Foundation regularly extends its support to provide the local residents in countries worldwide with the opportunity to experience the unique beauty of Korea by introducing the arts and culture of the Goryeo Dynasty and Joseon Dynasty, as well as examples of Korea's painting, Buddhist art, crafts, and ceramics. Recently, with a number of Korean artists who have earned global acclaim being on the rise, there has been a commensurate increase in the interest and support for Korea-related exhibitions, such as Yi Woo-han's retrospective exhibition at Guggenheim Museum and the showing of contemporary artwork by up-and-coming artists like Yang Hae-gyu and Seo Ho. And I also would like to introduce about the development of human resources program. In order to effectively utilize the various hardware and software initiatives that have been undertaken through the cooperative efforts of the Foundation and the participant museums, the continuous presence of appropriate museum professionals is absolutely essential. The staff curators who organize Korea-related exhibitions and oversee Korean collections at museums abroad are often times from Chinese or Japanese art background, and therefore need to acquire more in-depth knowledge and hands-on experiences related to Korean art. In response to this situation, the Korea Foundation has hosted a workshop for Korean art curated at overseas museums programs as an annual event since 1999. And this year, 2013, as you know, marks the 15th anniversary of this program. In particular, this workshop helps Korean art curators at overseas museums to manage and utilize the Korean artifacts of their respective museums in a more effective and proper manner through the provision of lectures by Korean art specialists and field trips to relevant institutions and sites. More importantly, this annual gathering enables program participants, both from abroad and Korea, to expand their personal network of museum professionals. The previous workshops have focused on a variety of themes, including Korea's painting, ceramics, Buddhist art, crafts, and architecture, along with folk, modern, and contemporary art, and Confucianism. Recently, the workshops have provided more in-depth education related to not only Korea, but within the context of Northeast Asia in regard to the interaction and the cooperation among the countries, so to say, the cooperation and interaction between Korea, China, and Japan. With each annual session having 30 or so participants, well over 100 Korea-related curators have attended at least one workshop event. And due to the diverse themes, curators have participated in an average of 2.6 sessions, including those who have attended more than 5 workshops over the years. Above all, the Foundation is most pleased and gratified that the workshop participants have applied the acquired knowledge, experience, and the personal relationship to cooperatively organize noteworthy Korean art exhibitions at their museums, along with also undertaking projects for the establishment of new Korean gallery spaces. This kind of positive momentum from a diversity of sources and Korean art curators is enabled to sustain the long-term promotion of Korea's culture and arts. Last but not least, it's not yet the first, but its importance is never less important than the formal programs. I also pleasantly introduce one of our relatively new programs called Korea Foundation Global Museum Internship Program, launched in 2011. Based on the network of professionals developed from the administration of a support program for overseas museums, the Korea Foundation launched its KF Global Museum Internship Program in 2011. This program is designed to offer Korea's young art students and promising museum staff with work experience at leading museums worldwide in an effort to nurture the next generation of museum professionals. The program currently offers intern assignment at the Guggenheim Museum, Metropolitan Museum of Art, Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, Asian Art Museum of San Francisco, Victoria and Albert Museum, and the British Museum. Thus far, the Foundation has supported a total of 13 interns who have been dispatched to 6 institutions over the past 3 years. The interns are provided with the opportunity to participate in the host museum daily affairs under the guidance of the department director. Although program applicants must undergo a stringent evaluation process yet, the Korea Foundation Global Museum Internship Program is the only program in Korea that provides internship at leading museums abroad. It thus has been invaluable means for the program participants to enhance their work experience and identify career path, in addition to acquiring global perspective from working and living abroad. Of course, and I also would like to remind the fact that the internship program has provided benefits for the host museum as well, by taking advantage of interns' contributions related to the research of Korean artwork and the provision of fresh perspective and insight, I believe. Moving forward, new program participants under consideration include the Museum of Art at the University of Oregon and the Museum of Art at the University of Florida in the United States, and the Stuttgart Museum and the Galleries in Germany. Under another foundation initiative to develop museum professionals is support the dispatch of Korean art specialists to museums that have a Korean art gallery but do not retain a curator who is exclusively responsible for the Korean collections or has not majored in Korean art. Currently, 3 curators from Korea have been dispatched to the British Museum for a 1-year assignment base. The curators dispatched from Korea have contributed greatly to the management of the Korean gallery at the British Museum in terms of recommending works for display, building extensive databases for the Korean collection and offering educational programs. The inclusion of additional museums in this visiting curator program, like the Honolulu Museum of Art in Hawaii, is currently under consideration. Although the selection of qualified participants can be a time-consuming process, the Foundation expects to steadily expand its internship and the visiting curator programs. As the first institution in Korea to utilize overseas museums as a viable channel to promote Korean culture, the Korea Foundation has taken the initiative in its complex international exchange and sharing the knowledge and emotion efforts by actively promoting Korea's art and culture among global audiences through the establishment of Korean galleries and museums abroad and the support for Korea-related exhibition programs. Today, with this kind of hardware and software system now in place, it is incumbent for us to further build on this forward momentum. From a long-term perspective, the Foundation feels an urgent need to nurture even more cultural specialists who can effectively organize and present Korea-related exhibitions and educational programs at overseas museums. Based on the recent success of KF Global Museum Internship Program, which is now in its third year, and next year the fourth year, the Foundation intends to increase the number of host institutions and the program interns, as well as to broaden the applicant's qualifications so that a more diverse group of participants can be dispatched abroad. Through the 15th workshop for Korean art curators at overseas museums and the related international conference to celebrate the program's anniversary, the Korea Foundation seeks to renew its vision for the next 20 years by looking back on its performances and overcome over the past, and finding the means and the measures to continue with these endeavors in a cost-effective and productive manner through all of our cooperative efforts. Today, the passion to promote Korea's culture and the arts is no longer within the Korea Foundation exclusive domain, as we are all aware of your own efforts to advance our mutual interest and understanding. We thus call upon your professional dedication and pride to help us to collectively help ourselves. Thank you for listening.
예, 감사합니다. 그 첫 번째 발표를 해주신 차두현 이사님께서는 그동안 국제교류재단에서 진행했던 이 한국미술과 한국미술시에 관련해서 어떠한 현황을 지금 우리가 알 수 있는지를 요약을 해주셨고요. 그 다음에 새로 시작이 된 그 코리안 인턴 프로그램에 대해서도 잘 설명을 해주셨습니다. 예, 다시 한번 감사를 드리고요. 잠깐 그 공지사항이 있습니다.
Before we continue, for those of you having problem with your receiver, the translating receiver, you need to press the on button on the top first, and then set the channel to number 1. It's the only channel that will transmit the translation. Thank you.
예, 그럼 두 번째 발표로 넘어가도록 하겠습니다. 두 번째 발표는 로버트 앤더슨 전 영국 대형박물관장께서 해주시겠는데요. 그 앤더슨 관장님께서는 옥스퍼드 대학교, 세인트 존스 대학에서 이제 공부를 하셨고요. 그 다음에 이제 그 1992년부터 10년에 걸쳐서 대형 박물관의 관장직을 맡고 계셨습니다. 그리고 현재는 케임브리지 대학교 클레홀 칼리지의 부총장으로 계시고요. 과학사와 박물관 쪽에 관심이 많고 많은 저서가 있으십니다. 오늘 발표해 주실 그 내용은 한국국제교류재단 한국실, 더 다양하고 풍성한 박물관을 만들다라는 제목입니다. 박수로 맞아주시기 바랍니다.
Can I have the slides?
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I must thank the Korea Foundation most warmly for giving me this opportunity to participate in the workshop. To celebrate the 15 years of organizing the Korean Curators Workshop. And I'm delighted personally to be back in Korea. During my 10 years at the British Museum, I came to understand and appreciate Korean culture in a way I'd never previously been able to before. And this was due to the Foundation's support and the very revealing sponsored visits which I paid to your country over that period. What I shall be presenting now is mainly based on my experiences at the British Museum, though I fully recognize that there's been an upsurge of interest in Korea in many museums around the world since the 1990s, for which the Korea Foundation can take much of the credit. Increasingly in recent years, museums have been boasting that they are encyclopedic when they describe themselves. And this is meant to tell us that the museum concerned has ambitions to be comprehensive in its coverage of world cultures, and that the coverage of its material spans over long periods of time. In addition to this title, they also wish to indicate to us that their collections are large, that their curators are scholarly, and that they provide authoritative opinions on the objects which they care for.
Do you want to turn that around? Turn that around. There you go. So push the one on the right. There we are.
Of course, no museum in the world is encyclopedic and covers all the subjects which museums deal with. No museum, for example, includes Egyptian mummies, Cubist paintings, and African beetles, as far as I know. In this slide, we see one of the most encyclopedic museums in the world, the Pitt Rivers Museum of Ethnology in Oxford. An art museum can attempt to be encyclopedic within the limits of its discipline, and even a museum which defines its coverage more narrowly, such as a museum of Asian art, can define itself in this way as long as its interests cover, in this particular case, the whole of Asia. Although the term encyclopedic museum itself has only become fashionable in recent years, a number of museums have tried to be encyclopedic since their origins. Museums of this kind are the British Museum, which was founded in 1753, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, founded in 1870, and the State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, which was declared a public museum in 1917, although earlier it had admitted members of the public. Each of these museums includes objects from all around the world, spanning from prehistoric times to the present day. There have been gaps in their collections, of course, and for many museums a frequent gap has been presenting material coming from the Korean peninsula. What I want to do in my paper today is to indicate how the work of the Korea Foundation has managed to make museums aware that the culture of Korea is distinctive, and that by helping museums to establish public galleries which display material from Korea, they are making those museums more encyclopedic than they ever have been in the past. In fact, the collecting of Korean objects by museums in Europe and North America did start more than 100 years ago, before the end of the Joseon dynasty. In 1878, in the printed catalogue of his collection of Far Eastern ceramics, Augustus Wollaston Franks, one of the truly great curators of the British Museum, included a brief entry on 6 examples of Korean pottery, concluding with the remark, and I quote from him, "The obscurity in which the subject is enveloped can only be dissipated by a better acquaintance with Korea and its inhabitants." Active collectors of Korean artifacts in East Asia in the late 19th century included the Americans Edward Morse, whose collection came to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, and Pierre Jouy, whose collection entered the United States National Museum in Washington. One of the most important collections of Korean material was that collected by Aubry Leblanc and deposited in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London in 1914. The great ceramic scholar Bernard Rackham wrote the catalogue, which was published 4 years later, which you see now on the screen. And it includes the words, and I quote again, "It is doubtful whether any larger or more important collection of Korean pottery exists in Europe, since only isolated specimens have hitherto made their way into the national museums." Gradually, Korean objects entered the largest museums of Europe and America, but there were no galleries devoted exclusively to Korea. Exceptionally, the Honolulu Museum of Art had a Korean room when it opened in 1927, but in other cases, Korean pieces were integrated, usually into Japanese galleries. This was unfortunate because rather than emphasizing the distinct artifactual culture of Korea, the public mentality merged them together, and they were considered as simply a variety of Japanese wares. Most Korean material which existed in Western museums were ceramics. They were easier to collect because there was so much more available than, say, bronzes or lacquerware. In Britain, there had already been a long-standing tradition of collecting Chinese ceramics, and it's not surprising that by the time of the Treaty of Friendship and Commerce between Korea and Britain, which was signed in 1883, this interest was maintained as increased contact between the two countries became possible. The metallurgist William Gowland collected Three Kingdoms pottery when he visited Korea in 1884, and this is now in the British Museum. Between the two world wars, more Korean acquisitions were made, in particular from the Euphemopolis collection in the 1930s, including this very rare Goryeo dynasty copper red glazed tea bowl. But it would be misleading to say that there was nothing but ceramics. The Museum of Fine Arts in Boston acquired a spectacular silver ewer and basin of the Goryeo period, and there are rare sutra boxes for Buddhist texts in the British Museum and in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Paintings are also being collected, such as this 18th century landscape by Jeong-song, which is in the Brooklyn Museum. The terrible conflict on the Korean peninsula between 1950 and 1953 had, as a byproduct, a heightened interest in Korean culture in the West. Some American and European military personnel returned home with Korean material, which they started to appreciate. The British Museum received a significant donation of Korean objects from a public health worker, Dr. Frederick Poulsen Hansen, who'd worked in Korea as a health worker in the 1950s, and we see water droppers on the screen. It can be seen that interest in Korean culture in the West was slowly being built up during the course of the 20th century by means of exhibitions which were sent from Korea. One of the earliest was Masterpieces of Korean Art, shown from 1957, first at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, and then at 7 other American museums. In 1961, from March to May, the Arts Council of Great Britain arranged for an exhibition, The National Art Treasures of Korea, which was shown at the Victoria and Albert Museum. And this included 152 pieces, one of which was the iconic Maitreya in your National Museum. The review in The Observer, a newspaper, it reported, and I quote, "If the art of China and Japan is well known in the West, that of Korea is almost totally overlooked. Yet Korean art is the missing link between that of China and Japan." Another exhibition, Treasures from Korea, was sent to the British Museum by the National Museum of Korea in 1984, with nearly twice as many exhibits, including a particularly strong group of Choson paintings. This exhibition continued to heighten public interest, and it was around this time that the British Association of Korean Studies was formed. And that's another interesting point, the moment at which these kinds of societies were being created in Europe and in North America. The Korea Foundation program of support for overseas museums started shortly after it was set up in 1991, with the aim of enhancing the image of Korea in the world and also to promote academic and cultural exchange programs. We must remember that the remit of the foundation is quite diverse, and that the development of Korean galleries is only part of the story. It was very shortly after its establishment that the British Museum was involved in discussions about the establishment of what would be the first gallery devoted to Korea in the museum's 240-year history. Support was offered, and a curator of Chinese art was allocated the task of developing the gallery. The museum decided that Jane Portal should take a degree in Korean Studies at the School of Oriental and African Studies at London University, which also involved spending a year learning the Korean language at Yonsei University. In the event, the museum could not open its gallery in 1997 as it was first hoped, because of the major building works which were being undertaken, compounded by the disruption caused by moving the vast book stock of the British Library out of the building where it had been housed since 1857. Nevertheless, the museum did feel a sense of responsibility for presenting its Korean collection at that time, and a temporary exhibition was established for the purpose, which was opened in July 1997 by the Duke of Gloucester, who was the Queen's representative on the museum board, in the presence of the Korean ambassador to the UK, Mr. Dongjin Cho, and the president of the Korea Foundation, Mr. Jung-won Kim. The longer timescale for the permanent gallery allowed a more considered view of how it should be developed, and several visits were undertaken to Korean museums. One idea, which was stimulated by a visit made by Miss Portal to the National Museum in Seoul, was that a sarang should be constructed within the gallery. And here we see the result. This was designed by Mr. Shin Yong-hoon and created in London by a team of Korean craftsmen. The furnishings would be specially made by a contemporary master craftsman, Chang Yang-mo, and that would provide more coherence than if a mixed selection of historical furniture was sought and purchased. It was agreed that the British Museum's collection was weak on early material, and the National Museum, here in Seoul, agreed to lend some key pieces on a 3-year loan basis. Another benefit arranged by the museum was that some important manuscripts and printed books would be borrowed from the British Library, including the important 1809 polychrome court painting contained in the Royal Ritual Record of 1749, a leaf of which we see, or which I'd hoped we would see, here. New acquisitions were made where possible at this time, for example, a set of 14 porcelain epitaph tablets, of which the museum had previously had no example. The in-house designer of the gallery also had the opportunity to travel to Korea, which was, I think, important, and as a result, though the gallery is in Bloomsbury in the heart of London, an appropriate feeling was created by having the floor planking laid out in a Korean manner and the windows shuttered in a Korean style. The Korea Foundation Gallery was opened on the 8th of November 2000 by the President of the Korea Foundation, Dr. Lee In-ho, and the British Secretary of State for Culture, the Right Honourable Chris Smith. And it was amongst the first sponsored galleries to be completed, despite the 3-year delay. The effect of this gallery devoted to Korea, the first in the British Museum's history, as I've said, has been very striking. Apart from displaying wonderful Korean objects, it's created an educational resource for the public understanding of Korean culture. It's also provided an impetus for the museum to devote much greater attention to Korea. The British Museum started collecting artifacts with increased seriousness when it was known that the gallery was going to be created. For example, this Joseon period moon jar was purchased prior to the opening with the help of a Korean benefactor, Dr. Han Kwang-ho. It has an important Korean-British connection, this particular piece, because the jar was originally purchased by the famous English potter Bernard Leach when he was in Korea studying ceramic making skills. We must remember that Korea and China have been extremely important in the development of 20th century ceramic traditions in the West. Bernard Leach gave this pot to the British-based potter Lucy Ree, and the museum purchased it at a London auction in 1998. And I believe that's entirely due to the fact that the Korea Foundation had supported the development of a Korean gallery in the British Museum. The presence of this jar, let's see it now, sorry, this is another jar, stimulated the Korean curator to acquire a contemporary moon jar made by Pak Yong-suk. It is, of course, difficult for museums to buy earlier material unless the item left Korea before export legislation was introduced. But in the year 2000, the Korean Parliament relaxed the export rules somewhat if the objects are destined for public museums. There are no such import problems when dealing with contemporary art. And because the current art scene is so vigorous in Korea, many curators are anxious to display modern arts of the country. And here we see work by the potter Yi Soo-kyung. The museum in Boston opened its Korean gallery only last year, showing a pot by this particular potter. And as it's entered, visitors are confronted by what I think is an uncompromising, sorry, I've gone backwards again. There we are. An uncompromising work by her, which is called Translated Vase, and which was made in the year 2011. In fact, it integrates rather well with earlier ceramics and makes the important point to visitors there is continuity of artistic tradition in Korea, which comes right up to the present day. A small problem which museums will increasingly need to overcome, and I suspect that the curators here in the workshop will be discussing this, is that in many of them there exists a department of contemporary art. It is such departments which collect present-day material from around the world. And it's most unlikely that curators working in a contemporary department would possess any knowledge of contemporary Korean art. Yet it is they who must recommend such pieces for purchase. The Yi Soo-kyung pot, which you see on the screen, was purchased by the Museum of Fine Arts Contemporary Department and was originally displayed in its contemporary gallery alongside paintings and sculptures which mainly came from Europe and North America. If relationships between curators and different museum departments are good, then there may be no problem. But there may be challenging in-house issues which need to be resolved. Talking of curators, I'd like to make a few remarks about who in a museum has responsibility for Korean collections. Until quite recently, European and American museums nearly always chose European and American staff to look after Asia. Only in a very few cases did the curators speak or read the Korean language. Usually such curators were experts in China or Japan, and only a very few could say that their sole responsibility was for Korea. This arrangement produced, in my opinion, a rather unprofessional approach. There has recently been a development in some museums where, rather than employing pure Westerners, the curators who've been appointed have been born in Korea, travelled to universities overseas to work for PhDs in art history, and have then got jobs as curators, as Korean curators. They read and speak Korean, and they're imbued with Korean culture. And this is currently the case, I believe, for the current curators of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco. And I believe it's to be welcomed. But I hope, however, that this will not discourage Westerners from studying Korean culture and taking up curatorial positions if they become sufficiently proficient and knowledgeable. Another important byproduct of the Korea Foundation galleries has been a significant increase in published books and catalogues dealing with the country's history and culture, and you only have to look outside on that book stand to see what's been published in recent years. As examples, in 2000, the British Museum produced Korea, Art and Archaeology by Jane Portal, which is now used as a textbook by a number of university art history departments. In San Francisco in 2006, the Asian Art Museum produced Kumya Pak Kim's The Art of Korea, which I hope you see, yes, and the Musée Guimet in Paris published L'Art Coréen by Pierre Gambon in 2011. To mark the opening of the Korea Foundation in the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, The Arts of Korea appeared last year. Museums' shops are now stocked with more books on Korean art and culture than at any other time in the past. And again, this is a byproduct of the Korea Foundation program. It's important to say that the creation of Korea Foundation galleries, and there are 90, I don't know whether they've got the statistics quite the same, but I believe there are 19 of them in North America, 7 in Europe and 2 elsewhere, is the start rather than the end of the process. Because galleries need renewal. You can't just do a gallery and leave it there forever. They lose their initial freshness, new objects need to be introduced into the displays, and changing scholarship requires some of the objects to be reinterpreted. There is also stimulus brought by introducing temporary exhibitions with different themes highlighted by borrowing material from other collections. This allows the possibility of unexpected juxtapositions, of showing ancient alongside modern objects, and of introducing strong storylines. Temporary exhibitions should be different from permanent galleries, allowing an element of, might I say, risk, even controversy, knowing that although in a few months the show will have moved on elsewhere, a debate will have been started. Now, I get on to a difficult subject because talking of controversy, I'd like to say something about how the British Museum has collected and displayed objects from North Korea. And I don't mean from the ancient Goguryeo kingdom, but from the period after the conflict of 1950 to 1953, when Korea, of course, was divided. The reason that this has become possible was that the United Kingdom and the DPRK developed diplomatic relations in the year 2000. And a year later, I was invited to bring a small cultural delegation to Pyongyang. The invitation was accepted partly because the British Museum and the British Library wished to have the opportunity of collecting material which had not been available for the previous half-century, ever since the war. The argument which we knew would be raised against our collecting was that everything produced over that 50-year period was propaganda, not art. And we had several responses to this. For one thing, we wanted to discover whether the traditional arts of Korea were being produced alongside overtly political material, and we found that in some cases they were. Secondly, much of the British Museum collection could not be described as art anyway. I don't believe you can call Stone Age axe heads or 18th century political art cartoons art in the, shall we say, the normal sense. A further response was that the museum already contained a great deal of propaganda material. Here you see, on the right, a pose adopted by public statues of the Roman Emperor Augustus, which were made in huge quantities and put up in public spaces. Both are propaganda art. The visit, I believe, was a success. Many paintings, calligraphic scrolls, posters, ceramics, and lacquerware were acquired at the time, and in a following visit in 2002. Some Korean visitors to London considered the temporary display of this material in a lobby adjoining the Korea Foundation Gallery to be controversial and have asked for it to be removed, while some South Korean newspapers printed critical reports. So far, North Korean objects have not been displayed alongside traditional art from the South, and I think it may be sensible not to do so. But the British Museum felt that it would be wrong to deny the existence of recent North Korean material, whatever its status. It's interesting that quite recently, a Korea Foundation Curators Workshop has actually paid a visit to Kaesong. There are a number of interesting issues which arise from which I've been discussing. There remains the question of whether museums should display single cultures in one gallery at a time, or whether they should incorporate some integration of art from other traditions so that influences to and from different cultural areas can be brought to the attention of museum visitors. This intermixing has been done with much more in Western museums than those in the East. However, the new National Museum at Yongsan does include other Asian cultures, though I believe in distinct spaces and at different levels within the museum. And this is in contrast to the situation in earlier iterations of the National Museum. I think this development is to be applauded. It cannot be denied, for example, that Korea and China had early trade links and that later Korea had a major influence on developing Japanese ceramics. To make this kind of thing clear is part of a museum's educational function. Something which needs to be avoided is any approach which might be interpreted as being nationalistic, a problem which has presented itself in the national museums in some countries in the past.
Director Anderson, your time is up, so please conclude your presentation.
I will conclude pretty quickly. The Korea Foundation does much more than support the construction of Korean galleries. It has themed curators' workshops for the past 15 years, and these have been very successful. Let me see. I see I've been banned from showing. I've only got another page to read. Many of those who participated in these workshops have produced very successful galleries which have been supported by the Foundation. Another initiative which has just been discussed is bringing young curators to work alongside experienced curators in the West. And I think, I will say controversially, that apprenticeships such as these can be so much more valuable than learning museum theory in university departments. There are still issues which need attention. One is the need to endow curatorial posts in museums so that there can be assurance in the long term for the care, presentation and scholarly attention of Korean collections. Another is that because there are now multiple sources of overseas museum funding available from official Korean sources, this can cause confusion. I imagine, though I do not know, that the future of the museum support program is being discussed, and it's likely that most museums in Europe, which have significant collections of Korean art, have already received assistance. The smaller collections which remain are unlikely to have sufficient material needed to present the breadth and sophistication of Korean culture. There remains the issue, of course, of the possibility of creating collections of contemporary Korean art. There's a curator's workshop. There we are. And this shows, this slide shows part of an exhibition in an Australian museum, I think quite recently, I think in Sydney. And one final issue I shall raise is the way in which Korean artifacts have been split in overseas museums between art, ethnography and natural history. In some places it's even divided between departments within the same museum, and this artificial distinction detracts from being able to create a broader picture. Now my final words. Finally, I do want to applaud the Korea Foundation and the Korean government for taking steps to support its culture overseas. Here we see the new gallery, which has just recently opened in Boston. Little else like it exists to support museums and the curators who work in them, and it's been extremely beneficial for promoting the tradition of Korea's artistic heritage. The arts, crafts and history of Korea are known and appreciated much more widely throughout the world now than at any time in the past. The museum encyclopedia has become that much richer and complete. Thank you.
네, 대단히 감사합니다. 그동안 대형박물관장으로 재직을 하시면서 이 한국 미술의 진흥에 대해서 많은 힘을 기울여 주셨습니다. 그래서 오늘의 발표는 그러한 내용을 많이 포함을 해주셔서 저희가 그동안 어떠한 일들을 겪게 되었는지를 잘 알 수가 있었습니다. 마지막 세 번째 발표자를 소개해 드리겠습니다. 세 번째 발표자인은 필라델피아 박물관의 관장이신 티머시 럽 관장님이십니다. 럽 관장님께서는 버먼트의 미들베리 대학교와 뉴욕 대학교에서 미술사학을 공부를 하신 후에 그다음에 이제 건축하고 현대미술 쪽의 전문가이시고요. 그 후에 여러 유수한 미술관의 관장을 역임을 하셨습니다. 예를 들면 다트머스 대학교의 후드 미술관, 신시내티 미술관, 그다음에 이제 클리브랜드 미술관 관장님을 거쳐서 현재는 2009년부터 필라델피아 미술관의 관장으로 재직 중이십니다. 오늘 발표해 주실 제목은 큰 계획을 세워라입니다. 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다.
Well, good morning, and thank you for all of you for coming to this program, but most of all, thanks to the President and staff of the Korea Foundation for their hospitality and for the invitation to participate in this event. Here you see the Philadelphia Museum of Art on your screen on the banks of the Schuylkill River in the wonderful city of Philadelphia. And our title. The Philadelphia Museum acquired by gift its first piece of Korean art, a small buncheong dish decorated with a stamped chrysanthemum design that dates to the 15th century in 1903, little more than 20 years after a treaty of peace, amity, commerce, and navigation had been negotiated between Korea and the United States. Philadelphia was then, again in 1903, the third largest city in the country, with a population of nearly 1.3 million citizens. Its museum, which had been founded in 1876 on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of the founding of the United States, was one of the first of its type, that is to say, a private museum founded for the benefit of the public, with education at the very heart of its mission. Today, it's one of our country's finest museums with strengths in American, European, and Asian art. And with a nod to Robert, I should say, although we often call ourselves encyclopedic, we are anything but. We just cover part of the world. There's that dish from 1903. And here a later addition to the collection, one of the finest pieces we have of Korean art, a 12th century Goryeo Dynasty vase that was acquired in 1974, actually from a museum just across the city from the PMA, the Penn Museum. A wonderful, wonderful Celadon vase that was once in the collection of the great American financier and collector J. Pierpont Morgan, which was in his collection actually cataloged as a Chinese vase, not a Korean vase. And this was seen just, I think, this past year, Dr. Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, at the great exhibition of Korean works in American collections that was shown at the National Museum of Korea. Now today our holdings of Korean art number more than 300 objects. They constitute one of the most prominent, if not the largest, collections of its type in our country and represent the Philadelphia Museum of Art's ongoing commitment, which began, as you heard a moment ago, early in its history and continues to this day, to acquire, display, and interpret notable examples of Asian art, including the arts of Korea, for its audiences. It's not my intention here to chronicle the development of our holdings of Korean art. This has in fact been done admirably in a catalog of our collection that was published in 2008 under the auspices of the Korean National Research Institute of Cultural Heritage. And although I'm pleased to say that this publication is already somewhat out of date because we have continued quite actively to add works to our collection by purchase as well as by gift. And here's one example of that, a wonderful 19th century Joseon Dynasty 10-panel screen illustrating lotus with birds and insects and the like in colors on paper. Here's a detail of that screen. Although my purpose today is not to speak primarily about our collection, it's important to emphasize here and at the outset that our commitment to its development remains quite strong. We understand, as I suspect most everyone in this room does, that such work, that is to say the work of developing a collection, is in a word foundational, in that it provides both the tools and the motivation for research, display, and interpretation. That is to say, those activities that are at the very heart of any museum's work, including ours. Nevertheless, as a colleague of mine recently observed, if the 20th century had been a period of collections building in the United States, including the building of collections of Korean art in a few museums in our country, then in the 21st century, it is our task, and it's a very happy one in my opinion, to focus primarily on the activation of the great collections that we have assembled. Simply put, the task before us today is not only or even principally about continuing to strengthen our collections, although that, as I stressed a moment ago, is important, but rather our task is about bringing them to life, to define as creatively as possible how they can be utilized to serve our goals of engaging and educating new audiences. And in this regard, I am mindful of the keynote speech this morning, which emphasized the importance of looking into collection storage, dusting off objects that hadn't been studied or displayed for a long, long time, and getting them out for the view, not simply of curatorial staff or research visitors, but also to the public as well. So this task, again, of activating our collections, I think all of us would agree, has taken on, and again, this echoes a point that's already been made, an even greater significance today than it may have had in the past, because globalism is bringing us together far more closely than we ever have been before, and as a consequence, broader cultural understanding and a greater appreciation of history have grown in importance, and one could even say in economic value. What I would like to share with you then this morning is both how we have been addressing this goal, again, of activating our collections at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and what we hope to do in this regard in the future. It's a story that begins with the generous support and encouragement we have received from South Korea itself. First, from the Korean National Research Institute of Cultural Heritage, which, as I mentioned a moment ago, nearly a decade ago provided both scholarly and financial support to produce a comprehensive catalog of the museum's holdings of Korean art, holdings that had languished largely in storage, hadn't been seen in any great numbers before, and certainly hadn't not been sufficiently researched. Basic research on the collection and the dissemination of information about it both in print and digital form is, of course, essential for any subsequent work. And it is to the great credit of our colleagues in the Korean cultural establishment that they recognize the significance and lasting value of such an investment in the work that they've been doing and funding over the past decade and more. And I should underscore here that that work is hardly done, and I think most of us would agree, and it needs to continue in the future. Now, more recently, the Korea Foundation has provided encouragement, and that matters, as well as financial support, first by conducting, again, a point that's been made several times already, and I think will continue to be made throughout this session, first by conducting the annual curatorial workshops that have proved to be invaluable to the staff of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, to be sure, and many other American museums, by opening up, as they have, new perspectives on Korean art and establishing a network of curators who now collaborate and support each other's work. I can't underscore how important that is as well. And secondly, of course, as you've heard a few minutes ago, by funding important exhibitions and reinstallation projects. Now, even before we began to benefit from the assistance of these agencies whose purpose is, of course, to increase the knowledge and appreciation of Korean art abroad, we had begun to gather support at home in our own backyard. In this regard, the founding in 1997 of the Korean Heritage Group in Philadelphia and at the Philadelphia Museum of Art represented a very important step forward. This association of individuals, most of them but not all, Korean Americans in the greater Philadelphia region came together to champion the cause of Korean art in the museum and to persuade others, both friends and donors, to get involved. Building awareness, encouraging participation, and giving a community a place of honor within the institution have been and will continue to be important tools not only for building our collection, but also doing more with it. An even more significant step taken by the museum was the establishment in 2006 of a curatorial position dedicated exclusively to Korean art. This position was endowed, that is to say, permanently funded a few years later, making it the only endowed curatorship of its type among American museums. Hyun-Soo Woo, someone I'm fond of making blush in public places. She's here with us today in the audience. A Korean art historian trained here in Seoul at Awa Women's University has held this position for the past 7 years, and held it with distinction, I should add. Her presence both at the Philadelphia Museum of Art and in the field at large has been enormously important in increasing the profile of Korean art in our institution. She has been a persistent advocate for the ongoing development of our collection, often appearing in my office with recommendations for new acquisitions. She's made important acquisitions that have filled significant gaps in our holdings as a result. She's also planned and implemented regular rotations of the collection in our gallery dedicated to the presentation of Korean art, cultivated relationships with new donors, and planned a series of special exhibitions that have made Korean art a staple of our public programming. And here you see a few slides that illustrate this. This is a view of one of the works in an exhibition that paired white porcelain of the Chosun dynasty with contemporary photographs by a noted Korean photographer that she installed in our galleries in the Perlman building. A very, very beautiful installation that paired old with new, brought the past into conversation with the present in wonderful, wonderful ways. And here you see another view of that gallery. So in sum, the increased attention that has been given to this field, that is to say Korean art, within our own institution boils down to 3 key factors. First, the additional resources that have been devoted by the PMA to staffing and programs. Secondly, a commitment to the ongoing development and active utilization of the collection, not simply its cataloging, but growing it and doing more with it. And thirdly, and I would argue most importantly, the sense of passion and purpose, and Hyun-Soo possesses both in abundance, that can be created and sustained by a talented and engaging curator. And here, just to round out this story, you can see a view of one of the installations that Hyun-Soo has done in our dedicated gallery of Korean art in the last few years. So the first part of the title of my talk this morning, Make No Small Plans, comes from a saying attributed to Daniel Burnham, who was one of the dominant figures in American architecture and planning more than a century ago. When describing and justifying the grand and visionary new plan that he had devised for the city of Chicago just around 1900, he spoke about the value of dreaming big and thinking expansively about the future. Modest plans, he observed, quote, have no magic to stir men's blood, end quote, or the ability to inspire us to think beyond the limitations of what we do today. The astonishing progress, economic progress of South Korea during the past half-century, which has now achieved a scale that one may have been believed to be entirely disproportionate to its size or its resources, is a perfect example, in fact, of what Burnham had in mind. Although many might be understandably satisfied with the considerable progress that we have made during the past decade in placing the study and appreciation of Korean art on a much firmer basis at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, I prefer to have us build ambitiously on this foundation and, quite frankly, do a whole lot more. In the time I have remaining, and I hope I do have a little more time, I'd like to sketch out for you what I have in mind, and to do so by referring to a significant project that we are now in the process of developing. Conceptually, there are several key elements to this project that represent a significant departure from current practice for us, and I believe point the way to the future. And as our curator pointed out to me before I came to the podium, she said, please make sure that everyone knows that this is an image that's created through the magic of Photoshop. It doesn't exist now, but it is the shape of things to come. And we will have banners, of course, up on our museum in about 6 months' time, heralding the arrival of a major exhibition of Korean art. So this project is indeed a special exhibition that will present the first major survey of the art of the Joseon dynasty ever to be shown in the United States. It is, to be sure, an ambitious undertaking, covering a great span of time in Korean history and seeking to provide a comprehensive portrait, and I underscore comprehensive portrait, of the artistic and cultural accomplishments of the period that created them, of a type that has rarely been attempted, that is rarely attempted anymore by museums in our country. This is, as I noted a moment ago, the first exhibition to survey the Joseon dynasty in its entirety. And the fact that it is regrettable, not only because great museums like ours should continue to take on big subjects, but also because projects of this scope remain one of the best ways to convey the scope and character of Korean culture and the achievements of Korean art to audiences in our country. It is, to make this point in another way, one thing to present a relatively small selection of Korean ceramics, painting, and metalwork in galleries devoted to the display of our permanent collection. And here I should remind you that we have only one gallery, a relatively small one at that, devoted to the presentation of Korean art. And it is an entirely different thing to devote the time and resources to a major exhibition of Korean art that will raise public awareness and broaden our understanding of a subject and a culture about which Americans, even today, know relatively little. And for this reason, we need to do a whole lot more. So just briefly, this survey will cover a number of subjects, more than 5 centuries, of course, during which the Joseon dynasty ruled and created a culture that is still very much in evidence in Korea today. It will not be organized stylistically or by media, but rather thematically, highlighting key aspects of the culture of the Joseon dynasty, such as the royal court and the role it played in both leading and regulating Korean society in ways that are probably truly unfamiliar to American audiences today, but would certainly be instructive, in my opinion. Let's see if I can move this along. So you just saw one of the great screens that stood behind the thrones of the Korean rulers. One of these great distinctive aspects of Korean art and Korean culture are these wonderful manuscripts, illustrated manuscripts with rituals displaying the rituals of the Joseon court. The exhibition will cover, among other things, the structure of Joseon society, including with the court, but certainly extending into the roles played by various people in Joseon society. Here, portraits of a scholar and a court official, I believe, with different rank badges. It will explore the continuing presence of Buddhism in a culture that officially sanctioned the practice of Confucianism, and we will indeed bring a 40-foot tall Buddhist banner painting to Philadelphia and put it in our great stair hall. And this, again, yes, is photoshopped, but this will come to pass in the not-too-distant future if we figure out the engineering, which I'm sure we will. And it will include an examination of the changes that occurred in Joseon society over time, especially in the late 19th century as Korea opened itself to contact with the West. So let's see what comes next here. Okay. Now, if the scope of this exhibition is ambitious, so too are our plans for it. After its premiere in Philadelphia next March, please mark your calendars, it will travel to the Los Angeles Museum County of Art, Museum of Art, and then to the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. This itinerary, 3 museums in about 12 months, will ensure that this survey of Korean art of the Joseon Dynasty will be seen in 3 of the 5 most populous metropolitan districts in the United States, including Los Angeles, which has our country's largest native Korean and Korean American population, and in 3 museums that have made a sustained commitment to presenting the arts of Korea in their galleries. Now, engaging not only our traditional audiences, but also Koreans and Korean Americans is an important objective of this exhibition, as it has long been for our Korean Heritage Group. The difference now is that we have an instrument to do so, a major exhibition that will be widely promoted and targeted to Korean Americans and Koreans in our country in very specific ways. In the past, we have had very few opportunities to do this on a broad basis, which for the Philadelphia Museum of Art actually means reaching out to these audiences across the entire northeastern United States, from Boston to Washington, D.C. This exhibition, again because of its scope and its content, provides us with a wonderful opportunity to expand our audience development activities, both to make new friends and to strengthen existing relationships. The point of such an exercise, of course, may seem entirely self-evident to you, but it is nonetheless very important if we wish to broaden the understanding and appreciation of traditional Korean art and culture in our country. Trying to do so through research on our collections of Korean art or by the reinstallation of galleries in which museums like ours present their permanent collections are not sufficient in and of themselves to accomplish this goal. A broader approach, in my opinion, is required to achieve it. Ambition and scale matter, and in this regard, it is important to understand and fully appreciate the role that can be played by major exhibitions like Korean art of the Joseon Dynasty. Now, here I'm just going to pause and say one thing that has made me, of course, entirely happy about this project, but also surprised me a bit, is that in the 4 years that I've been in Philadelphia, we have raised more money for this particular exhibition, nearly $1.7 million to date, than any other show we have done. And that money has come from a variety of sources, some from in Korea, but much more from the United States itself, from organizations such as the National Endowment for the Humanities and the Luce Foundation, but also from many other agencies and individuals. There's a broad and deep interest in having these kinds of exhibitions presented in this country, and I think the funding we've received for this project is an example of that. Now, let me continue to talk about audience and about how we engage people with Korean art, particularly historical Korean art in the United States. As we have thought about how to present this exhibition to audiences in our country and asked ourselves, how can we make historical Korean art and culture come to life in the present day, we've turned time and again to the question of programming. Simply put, how can we capture the attention of the audiences we want to reach and encourage them to see the exhibition and become engaged with the story it tells? What has been clear to us from the very beginning is that programming is a key to answer this question. Counterintuitively, perhaps, we decided that this is not the type of exhibition that will benefit from a lot of scholarly or art historical programming to be presented while it's up. The catalog will do that work. Many scholars will come to see the show. Many classes in Asian and Korean art from local universities will do so as well. And to be sure, we'll present our fair share of art historical lectures and the like. But the key opportunity, in our opinion, is to invite visitors to the museum and then into the exhibition through contemporary programming. That is to say, programming that is about Korea today. Thus, we have developed a broad range of options from contemporary Korean music and film, including the wildly popular costume dramas on the Joseon Dynasty that air on Korean television and have a devoted following actually in our own country, to Korean food and Korean fashion. Now, the point here is not that we're doing a lot and doing many diverse things with our programming, but rather this point, that bringing the past into conversation with the present is, for me, one of the most important ways that we can make history and our shared cultural heritage come alive for new audiences in the present day.
I'm sorry, Director, your time is already up, so please conclude your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. If I could take just a few more minutes, I'll be done, I promise. Now, much of this programming, indeed, one of the principal ways in which we set about organizing this exhibition will be collaborative. That is to say, from the outset, we've seen the development of this exhibition as succeeding only to the degree that we would leave ourselves open to the possibility of working with many different partners. In this regard, there are indeed many different and enthusiastic stakeholders who share the goal of fostering a broader understanding of Korea and Korean art in our country. This has led, no surprise, to conversations and collaborative planning with Korean churches and schools, with the University of Pennsylvania's Korean Studies program, and with Asian Studies programs in colleges and universities throughout Pennsylvania, as well as in nearby states, to marketing partnerships with the Korea Times and other journals that directly serve Korean audiences in the United States, with 2 other museums in major cities in our country, and most importantly, with sister institutions here in Korea, most notably our organizational partner, the National Museum of Korea. And I'd like to thank its present director as well as its past director for their wonderful and steadfast support. This list is by force of circumstance incomplete and intended to only to illustrate the various types of productive partnerships that projects like this can engender and should engender, and to make a point that the work we do together around a common goal can yield a far greater return than we do alone on any investment that we make in fostering a greater understanding of Korean art and Korean culture. It was here, in fact, in Seoul that the first conversation about this exhibition took place, about 3.5 years ago, with Dr. Chae Kwon-shik, who was then director of the National Museum. When I approached this subject with Dr. Chae and indicated to him our interest in collaborating with the National Museum of Korea, not only on the development of an exhibition of Korean art that would tour the United States, but also on an exhibition of American art. And here you see a picture of the NMK, if I may call it that, last February when we opened Art Across America with our colleagues here at the National Museum. It was clear to me that he understood the implications and, more to the point, the benefits of working in this way and the promise it held for the future. And although I don't have time this morning, I should say that this was an exchange of exhibitions that allowed us to structure this work economically and otherwise in a way that was beneficial to both institutions, both the National Museum and the consortium of museums in the United States that worked on this. So, to conclude, and I'll conclude with a vignette from the exhibition which shows a wonderful set of 18th century furniture from Philadelphia as well as a painting by one of Philadelphia's first great painters, Charles Wilson Peale. To conclude, the future of our a program to encourage a greater understanding and appreciation of Korean art at the Philadelphia Museum of Art began with a foundational commitment to the cataloging, presentation, and continued development of our collection, and the gathering of resources to enable us to achieve this goal. A key step along the way was the creation of a curatorial position to provide proper stewardship and care for this collection and to serve as an advocate for its growth and utilization, and that has unfolded in wonderful ways. And now we are strengthening our commitment and moving in a new direction, first by taking on a much larger project in the field of Korean art than we have ever attempted before, and secondly, by looking outward and working in partnership with many other organizations, both in Korea and the United States, to achieve these very same goals. As the old saying goes, many hands make light work, and working together, we can ensure that an understanding and respect for the achievements of Korean art and culture continues to grow both in our country and abroad. Thank you.
네, 대단히 감사합니다. 저희가 앞에서는 이제 그 대형 박물관의 사례를 들었고요. 이번에는 이제 필라델피아 박물관의 사례를 잘 들었습니다. 특히 이제 곧 개최가 되는 조선미술대전은 상당히 기대가 됩니다. 그럼 이제 그 토론자분을 모시겠는데요. 우선 첫 번째 토론은 한국학중앙연구원의 명예교수로 계신 이성미 교수님을 모시겠습니다. 이성미 교수님에 대해서 따로 소개를 안 드려도 될 정도로 여기 있는 많은 분들이 잘 아시고 계시는데요. 그냥 한 가지만 제가 덧붙이자면 지금 우리가 오늘 이 자리에서 지금 축하를 하고 있는 이 코리아 파운데이션의 이 큐레이터 워크숍 프로그램을 처음부터 이것을 이제 입안을 할 때 많은 역할을 하셨고 그 후에 지금까지 15회에 걸쳐서 이것이 성공적으로 진행되는데 굉장히 중요한 역할을 해주셨기 때문에 뭐 데모라고 말씀을 드려도 될 정도로 이성미 선생님의 역할은 상당히 크셨습니다. 그럼 이성미 선생님의 코멘트를 듣도록 하겠습니다. 박수로 맞아주시죠.
Because three speakers took all our time, I've been sitting and crossing off lines and lines of comments that I have made to present here today. But I don't think I need much time. I will just simply comment on the three speakers one by one. Mr. Cha is an insider of the Korea Foundation. Hence, he is in a good position to describe numerous achievements of the Korea Foundation's support programs of overseas museums since 1991. Mr. Cha aptly characterizes the workings in terms of hardware-software harmony that creates synergy for a leap forward. For example, Guggenheim Museum, normally not associated with Korean art, has shown contemporary Korean artists such as Lee Woo-hwan, Yang Hae-gyu, and Seo Do-ho, who are internationally well known under the KF support program. This is a proof that the program is indeed global and successful. And he also talks about the curators workshop and other Korea Foundation's program. I will also talk about some of them in my paper in the afternoon. I would like to simply congratulate the Korea Foundation and Mr. Cha, its executive vice president, for all of what the foundation has achieved with its museum programs since 1991. The next paper, Mr. Anderson's wording, making encyclopedic museum more encyclopedic, is well phrased and indeed the highest tribute to the Korea Foundation's effort in making sure mark of Korean culture in the encyclopedic museum, such as the British Museum. He addresses so many issues in his talk. Since there's another discussant, Professor Cho In-soo there, I will make comments on only a few issues, hoping that Professor Cho will do the rest. Mr. Anderson talks about qualifications of Korean art curators at museums overseas. I do that in my paper in the afternoon. In his enumeration of books in English on Korean art, for some reason, he did not mention the 14 books in the KF's Korean Culture series. I think these books are really wonderful, not because my book is one of those, but because Director Kim Young-na's book is number one of that, and then Dr. Chung Hyung-min, who will present her talk this afternoon, has another one. And really, with these 14 books, you can't say that there aren't enough books on Korean art and culture in English. I will skip a lot of these. I will address the issue of showing North Korean artworks. As for the controversy on the British Museum's policy of acquiring and exhibiting contemporary North Korean artworks, there could be pro and con opinions even among the audience here. Some North Korean artworks, such as the huge statue of Kim Il-sung, Mr. Anderson showed on the screen juxtaposed with the statue of Augustus. These things can be termed as socialist realist art, and in that sense, it is a part of the zeitgeist of our time. I used to include some of the works in my graduate lectures. However, I do not think it